Great. Now that we have identified when to use delayed feedback and when to use on-the-spot feedback, let's focus on delayed feedback. Think of the groups that you have and how you if you carry out delayed feedback first, and how you carry it out. Is it with every group? Is it after every communicative task? How do you go about it? In this video, we'll be talking about both young learners and also teenagers, okay? So get your notes, get ready for some note-taking now as we talk about both. For young learners, I thought of games. I thought of classic games that we can normally use, and games that usually involve lots of participation from students. And so lots of feedback that can be given. The very first game, they are both classics, but the very first game that I thought of using is this one here, I Spy with My Little Eye, right? Quem nunca, right? We've all used this in our classrooms, and it's not really written here, but it's something that should be in the lessons, which is modeling. Before every type of game or activity, the teacher needs to model the task so students understand what it is and what is expected of them, the language that is also expected. So let's say they understand that it's I spy with my little eyes something and then a color. Maybe you're teaching them different colors or different shapes. So something big, something small, a circle, anything like that, right? So let's say it's these ideas. You model the task, they understand what it is, and as they do the activity, one student says, I spy with my little eye, and then something green, and then all the others point at something green or go and grab something green. You listen and you observe. You just mentally take notes of the students, if students actually do it, if they understand the task, if they are producing the correct language, or if they're not. And I know you might feel the need to like interrupt if they make a mistake and like correct them right away. But remember, this is a game and you're having fun, and maybe they don't want to be interrupted all the time with a few remarks. So maybe just listen and you avoid this sort of correction at the moment. After the game, then provide them with a positive remark on the task itself, because they were able to finish the task. So guys, that's great. You all found great things or very nice things, anything like that. And then you provide them with some sort of reinforcement on the language itself, showing them that they, showing them, like reviewing with them the things that they got it right, but also the things that they maybe got it wrong. So guys, that's great. You all found very nice things. Let's review the colors. So let's see, everybody, what color is this marker? It's blue. Very good. It's blue. Excellent. Rodrigo, what color is this marker? Blue. Ah, can you tell me? It's a blue marker. It's a blue marker. Now, Rebecca, what color is this marker? Ah, it's da-da-da. It's green. Ah, great. It's a green marker. Now everybody, and you keep asking whole group or also specific students, the ones that you saw had problems. Let's imagine a student said, I spy with my little eye something big, but then this one student here, let's call her Anna. Anna got something small because she got the two words mixed up. So then you ask students, everybody, guys, is this small or big? Small or big? Ah, it's small. Very good. Anna. So everybody answered. Now, Anna, is this small or big? Very good. Anna, show me something big. Then Anna shows something big, points at something big, for example. And so then this girl, for example, will have the chance to understand that this is something small and that something else, like a ball, for example, that they have in the classroom is big, and she's able to correct herself in a way. If you want more practice on the topic, for example, you can provide them with something that will systematize the idea with them. I wrote here for post-game practice, dictation. It's not the kind of dictation that like I, the teacher, we'll say something, I say the word blue, and then you write the word blue. That's not really the kind of dictation that I had in mind when I wrote this, but something like this. Let's imagine this here, a blank sheet of paper. This I folded twice, as you can see. If you have a larger sheet of paper, you can fold it more times. So then it becomes like 8 squares. This one I only have 4. So you tell them, guys, look at everybody has a sheet of paper and they fold it twice, for example. Then they have 4 squares. Then you show them, guys, the first square, everybody, please color it green. So then everybody goes and colors it green. Then just something green here. Okay, now everybody here, the second, but you don't show them, you just dictate. And the idea is that they understand by listening that you're asking them to, in this part, put something green here. Now, everybody here, something blue. They get something blue, and then they write something blue. And so it goes. Or draw something big here. Draw something big. Draw something small. Something like this. Something beautiful, for example. Or draw a triangle. Draw a circle. Anything like that. If you have the time, by the way, this can be, you can actually cut this, right? And use it as a memory card. You pair students up and then they play the game because I'm a student, I'm student A, and then my friend is student B. Then we cut the cards. I have my set of cards, he has his, we mix them up, and then we have a memory game, something blue, and then they can actually use it. It's a way to reinforce the language, right? The idea is that at the end, you also provide them with the feedback, with positive feedback, but also on the task, but also on the language, right? Fantastic, everyone. Look at all the colors you know. Or now you know blue, green, yellow, da, 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 da. You now 10 colors, for example. So they understand that they were able to complete something and that they did a good job and that they actually know the words, yeah, the shapes or the colors, for example. This is one of the games. Similarly, think of the same structure for another classic, Simon Says. Same way, you model the task before the game starts. You show them what is expected of them. Let's say in this lesson, you're teaching them action verbs. So jump, stand, ride, or walk, anything like that. Model the task with them. They understand that they have to say Simon says, da da da. Simon says jump, and then students have to jump, and then another student has to say Simon says touch your nose, and then all students touch their noses and things like that. During the game, again, listen, observe, avoid immediate correction unless it's a breakdown, as we mentioned before. If there's a communication breakdown, if the student can't really say the word, then obviously interfere, but avoid anything more than that. And then mentally take notes on what students are getting it right, but also what they're getting it wrong. So you can later on provide them with the same skeleton here. So first, positive remark, right? Oh, this was so much fun. That was great, guys. You had to do 5 actions or da, 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 something like this. As a fun reinforcement, you can have an action drill. So you say the word like jump, and then they have to jump. Let's review the actions. Jump, everybody jump, right? Then you can also have flashcards to do that. So then you show them a flashcard with the word run, and then you just show a student. The student runs, for example, and they have to say run. Or so the idea is that they both see the picture, but they also say the word. Especially, again, think of what we mentioned before, especially the students you saw had problems. Let's say the student, you said, for example, the student said, Simon says, walk to the board. And then there was a student who ran to the board. So then you check. Guys, walk to the board. Let's walk to the board, not run. No. Running, no. Walk to the board. Is this walking or running? Ah, okay. So you double check. As for a post-game practice, you can have charades as well, or drawing, as we mentioned before, it also works. Charades is again, a classic, right? A student has to mimic, the others has The others have to say the word that that the student thought of. You can also use flashcards for that. So it's a way to make sure students understood the idea, because again, as we mentioned before, students, when they are provided feedback, they need to understand what is being said, but they also need practice. They also need to assimilate, like, okay, this was a mistake. Now I have the time to do it again and do it better, because now I know the word, because now I know how to do it. I know the difference between walk to the door and run to the door, or I know the difference between sit and stand, for example. And then again, positive feedback. You did great, guys. Now you know all these verbs. Now you know 10 verbs, things like that. So this is just a way to deal with young learners. It's what we have to have in mind is that students, you don't need to write things on the board with very young learners specifically, but they need to have the time to review the target language again, to check the mistakes that they made and fix them. Yeah. Let's talk about teenagers now. Remember when I asked you, like, what kind of feedback do you give? Maybe you thought of this one, the idea that you provide them with feedback on the board, which is very common way to, a very common, but also very effective, yeah, way to deal with feedback, with delayed feedback. What I'm using here is this idea. First, students participate in the task, they perform the task, they role play a situation, for example, they carry out a conversation, and then the teacher lists sentences that show that they understood the target language. Let's say here the target language is the verbs in the past. They are talking about something that happened last week or last month during their vacations, anything like that. So they use the correct structures. So you show them, say, guys, that's great. Look at the sentences that you used. Are the sentences in the past? Yes. How do you know the sentences are in the past? Went, visited, studied. Excellent. Well done. They are all in the past. They are perfect. Now, then you show them the common mistakes without nominating, right? Without saying, this was Rodrigo who said this, or this was, no, you just show them on the board. And then you ask them, can you spot the mistake? So students would then say, he isn't, but he wasn't. Okay, he wasn't in class yesterday. Everybody, he wasn't in class yesterday. Wasn't in class yesterday. Then you can ask specific students. For example, you ask, Roberto, were you in class yesterday? Then Roberto will say, yes, I was. Okay. Or Gustavo, were you in class yesterday? No, I wasn't. Where were you, Gustavo? I was at home. Okay. Gustavo, can you ask Alice where she was yesterday? Alice, where were you yesterday? Or were you in class yesterday? Anything like that. So it gives the students the chance to first correct the spot the mistake, correct the mistake, and then use the language again. So they do everything. Yeah, both students who got it right, and also students who struggled. So you provide all of them with a chance to do it again. Same thing for the other sentences. Guys, spot the mistake. I didn't. Okay, good. I didn't do my homework. Why? It's in the past. I didn't. Excellent. Then you can ask other students. Did you do your homework? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Everybody, can you ask? Tell me. I didn't do my homework. So what did you do yesterday? I did. I did this, or I watched a movie. Okay. Same thing. My mom spot the mistake. Cooked. Excellent. My mom cooked dinner last night. Okay. Then again, same thing. You ask other students to tell you what happened. So say, for example, Bernardo, did your mom cook you dinner last night? Or who cooked dinner for you last night, Bernardo? My dad. Excellent. Tell me, my dad cooked dinner last night. Very good. Guys, who cooked dinner for Bernardo last night? Then they say, like, his dad. cooked dinner last night. Very good. So you see the idea of providing them with feedback also means that you're giving them the chance to do it again, or to have some sort of like a mini practice right afterwards, so they can systematize the language and understand what is being worked on. This is what we are talking about here is just about the grammar aspect, let's say, but it can also be about pronunciation. Let's think of the use of the ed. You can focus on that and ask students, guys, how do you pronounce this? How do you say it? Id, id. Okay, everybody, id. Okay, so I visited. Excellent. So it goes like the last one. How do you say it? I studied. So the sound is a D. I studied. So she studied Spanish. Everybody, what did you study? I studied, da, da, da. You ask follow-up questions so that they can use the words. You can use the correct pronunciation right away. Like, I studied Spanish yesterday, or I studied for my test last week, anything like that. So you give them the time to check that they made a mistake, for example, but they also have the time to look at it and practice it right away. This is not the only type of feedback that can be done. You can, instead of like writing on the board, you can use cards, for example. So while students are participating in the task, you write the mistakes in cards, and then you just distribute them in groups, and then students corrected the sentences together. It's a more student-centered approach. You see, the sentences can be the same as this approach here, but then you're just asking students to do it themselves. So spot the mistakes, correct the mistakes, yeah. And then as after that, the teacher will conduct a more whole group approach to it. The teacher can provide students with the same questions they have to ask, then you drill. It's the same idea as we've just done right now, right? But it's a more student-centered approach. A different way that is also student focused is peer review. So let's suppose students have a speaking activity or a writing activity, and then you agree with learners before the task, that they will have to review each other's work, focusing on the target language that you're teaching them. So maybe specific chunks, or the expressions of time or feelings or whatever it is. What is very important here is that the teacher needs to provide them with certain chunks for them to use during their peer review. So you can have something like this. So as Ana and João are talking, João says to Ana, Ana, you used when, while, and last night. Yeah? Or you used this, this, and that. And then for another activity, you can have, for example, you described your sister very well. You described your mom very well. If it's something that needs to be worked on, provide them with a chunk. In the future, try using the words nice, beautiful, to talk about your mom. Or in the future, try using the words get up, wake up, go to school, to talk about your routine. In the future, talk about your school when you talk about your routine. Anything like that. So you show them what students are expected to produce before the activity in itself, because you're telling them that they will be the ones reviewing. And then as the other student is producing something, they need to pay attention and also take notes. It needs to be very clear that the focus of the activity is not to judge the student or point mistakes, but actually to help them. So they can see that all their peers are also important in their learning process, and they can help them, right? I also got here the last one that I included is this one here. This is a more time-consuming activity, but it's it covers an aspect that is important. Let's imagine there is a written task, a text they have to write, or their formal tests, they make mistakes, and you can write individual feedback for them. This is a very personalized delayed feedback, so students understand, like, I made this mistake, or I did this correctly, this was great for me, but I need to work on something else, right? Again, the idea of positive and negative should also be here. It's obviously more time consuming, but it's very effective, as it shows the students as well that you are paying attention to who they are, basically, and their progress in general. Yeah. Did you take notes on the techniques that we used? Which ones were useful for you? Which ones do you think you can use in your future lessons, let's say this week or next week? Yeah, think about these for our next video. All right.